I've been thinking a bit about America and how it's so prideful on its pure capitalistic system, which I don't think we really are a, a purely capitalistic system because we have so many social programs for people, and a lot of it, we have a lot of waste in like just giving money away. And but then again, like, we do a lot of good with the money for people, maybe not the right people all the time. But I look at a capitalistic system more of like China, where each company and thus the government tries to maximize the labor from each individual person. And I think capitalism, in the end, that's what it wants to achieve, is purely the maximizing of the workers for the lowest amount of money. So if companies can get away with paying their employees less, then I believe, of course, that's what they will do. And I think Uber is that at its maximum level, you could say, just because they know exactly what people will pay, so they will maximize the profit that they can get from a person per purchase slash per ride, and then they will pay the employee or the W-2 or the contractor, the driver, the least amount of money possible. These rocks are so friggin' slippery. But I wanted to see what was around that corner, and I can see that from place to place, city to city. You know, a place 10 miles down the road can pay you half of what 10 miles up the road is, and that's without surge or any other kind of other bonuses that be kicked in. And it's so weird, like from Sandpoint to go to the airport, which is 90 miles, pays the same as from Coeur d'Alene to the airport, which is 35 miles. And it just seems that these two places aren't really that far off from each other, and yet the pay discrepancy is so great just because the median income in Sandpoint is so much lower. There's less educated people, I guess less people in general, and they know, if I get through this, and they know that they can just kind of ream people in this town because they're all kind of uneducated rednecks, basically. Just that person that barely even made it through high school mentality, I guess. And they're just, I mean, like me, they're kind of probably angry with the world, but maybe for different reasons. It's more perhaps racial, and maybe just that society owes them something, which I believe society owes all of us something, or the country at least that we pay taxes in. But what I believe is at such a minimal level that it's like maybe supplying cheaper tiny homes. But you know, you don't get to go out and drink and do drugs. You have to take drug tests in order to qualify for these homes. They're not just given to you willy-nilly. So more restrictions, and then your freedom goes up along with how clean of a lifestyle you're living, and also whether or not you're working or not and trying to get back to society. But just to work your 2-3 jobs and not to have any benefit nor decent housing, I feel is a shame. It shouldn't just be given to you, but it should come with a cost associated with it, which will inhibit your personal freedoms to, I suppose, do drugs and to go out and drink. But That's kind of my thinking. But then again, that would fit right in with my lifestyle because I don't need much, and I'm already living as healthy as, not as healthy as I could, but I'm trying at least to maintain that level. But it seems like society, with the stress and the jobs and the hopelessness that a lot of people are in, you know, it really can drive you into drugs and alcohol. And there's no incentive for a lot of people not to do those substances. And coming back to Idaho, it really reminds me of the fact that some of these red states, they almost seem more, man, I don't know, like just diehard profits at any cost with their subpar wages. I mean, the minimum wage here is still at the federal level of $7.35. And I mean, the gas is just as expensive as it cost me in Reno to fill up. Groceries are still expensive. Maybe your taxes are lower, but I mean, you're already talking about the top 60-70% of the population to really benefit from taxes anyways. You know, it's kind of like, you know, all those tax incentives for the EVs. Well, the only people that could take advantage of those tax refunds were the people who made enough money to already buy those cars. Someone like me, I mean, like, I'm not paying much into the tax bracket, I suppose, but it wouldn't matter if I bought an EV and could get a refund, because I mean, my refund wouldn't be over that amount anyways, or I have to pay $1,000, or maybe I get $1,000 back. It kind of fluctuates between years, and that's with just depending on how many deductions I can make, which I try to maximize. But you know, like Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, these majorly red states, people are supporting Trump and the Republican Party, but I don't think Republicans support the lower income people at all. Your health insurance is shit. The wages are shit. And it just allows these companies like the Home Depots and the Walmarts and the Targets, even the restaurants, to just pay their employees nothing. And granted that you should be beyond those jobs, I suppose, when you're middle-aged like me. But I think a lot of us are finding out that we're not being able to circumvent and get beyond those entry-level jobs anymore. I mean, young people can't find jobs, and I think that some companies even are just being ageist, I suppose, and not wanting to hire the older people. And I think that there's against both sides of, we want people with experience of 10 years, but it's an entry-level entrepreneur, it's an entry-level just like internship job, but you need the experience and you're still not going to make enough money to actually live. And so it's kind of like, with this job, you need to find another one, and then you need to get on food stamps. And it's that trifecta that it seems that you need in these states to survive. Of, you know, you have your two jobs that each one pays you $10-12 an hour, and then you get on food stamps hopefully. But you know, those programs are very limited already in Idaho, along with any kind of health insurance. You know, at least California has Medi-Cal, which does take care of people who are really low income, but there's none of that here. And to me, it seems like the inequality and the unfairness is greater here than in some of the blue states. But if you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, that's when socialism starts looking pretty good. And even if it's a terrible system, I mean, people are already hurting. And so, why not just go with a New York style Mamdani mayor or president and just say, you know what? I need my life to be a little bit better. And if it burns the whole system down, then by golly, let's burn it down, because the CEOs and executives and the major Wall Street people who just say invest, but you need money to invest in to then start making the money, because hours for wages doesn't work anymore. To make money, you have to come into the system with money and be able to invest large amounts of it. And so it just pulls up the ladder so no one else can succeed, because we're making money just to pay our bills, and there's not much excess to invest after that, and you're running on the hamster wheel and you're not getting anywhere. And we don't have a good system of sharing the wealth or giving back, because the government sadly would just tax billionaires and trillionaires, and they would just keep that money for themselves. So we're kind of caught in the middle of, do we allow the CEOs and major business leaders of the world keep the money and hopefully they share some of the wealth, or do we give it to the government and hope that they will then share it? And I think that both are almost equally corrupt. And so we don't have anyone to really trust, because we can see that the billionaires just aren't sharing the money. You have these people spending millions of dollars on a wedding and buying islands and buying their own fleets of jets. And then it's like this building of excess resources, which it never ends. And the government then, I don't know what they want. I guess, they want money, more money and more power. And it seems that they want a society from overseas. So the American citizen is again kind of left out in the dark. But I'd almost think that politicians owe more of a debt to people, normal people, than the billionaire who doesn't have to run on any votes. I suppose that maybe the government then would be incentivized to help people more than a billionaire. And any of these companies, it's better to just get a new workforce and be able to pay them less money and then have more money for your investors and your shareholders, because that's really the main goal of these companies now, is to make the shares go up for their stakeholders. That's the real responsibility, not to the employees or anyone else. And sadly, it's becoming, can we make our products cheaper and have a cheaper workforce, so that way we have more? And that's why we have AI and robots coming to replace the person. It's an odd time to be living. In some ways it's the greatest time, and in others it's one of the, not the worst, but it's degrading in that direction. But then again, I could be completely off base and full of shit. We all tend to have beliefs that benefit ourselves in reality. And so we're all gonna have belief systems and probably vote whatever way is gonna benefit us the most. And so I think that puts on blinders for a lot of us as well. But I think perhaps you gotta take a little bit of advice from everyone, from the old, young, rich, poor, and just see how well the system is working for each person. Not going for complete fairness, but so that way some people don't feel like they're completely left behind on the system either, where we can all somewhat benefit and live healthy, productive lives. And with that, I'm gonna get going. I went on the paddleboard today because I got a job training later tonight and I didn't want to be tired from riding the bike. And I figured also getting some extra vitamin D out here probably be a good thing. So at 6 miles, an hour 45 on the paddleboard, I'm gonna call it a day. It's pretty solid out here, and it's good to get an upper body workout instead of just always on the bike, just the legs. Alrighty, well, we'll see you guys in the next one. And I didn't make a video yesterday because I took someone from Sandpoint to the airport, which is about an hour and 30 minutes, and then I just did 5 rides from the Coeur d'Alene town to the airport, which paid the same, if not a little bit more, for half the distance as from Sandpoint. Which just makes me think that sometimes these small towns really aren't favoring the most vulnerable, but they're just taking advantage of whoever they can, wherever they can.